The rain hammered the streets of Asheville, North Carolina, as if the sky itself wept for Caleb Morrow's shattered world. At 19, he stood beneath a flickering street lamp, his backpack soaked, his heart heavier than the storm. Just hours ago, his mother's voice had sliced through him. "No son of mine will live like that. Get out." Caleb's crime? He loved Ethan, the quiet boy from his community college art class who sketched wildflowers with a tenderness that made Caleb's chest ache. Their first kiss, hidden in the shadow of a magnolia tree, had felt like freedom, until his mother found Ethan's letter tucked in Caleb's sketchbook. Her face had contorted with rage, her Bible-thumping fury unleashing a torrent of words that branded Caleb a sinner, an outcast. By nightfall, he was homeless, his belongings stuffed into a bag, his mother's door slammed shut forever. He wandered Asheville's neon-lit downtown, the Blue Ridge Mountains looming in the distance like silent judges. His sneakers squelched against the pavement, and his breath fogged in the chilly October air. Caleb had nowhere to go, no family, no money, just a phone with a cracked screen and Ethan's unanswered texts. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen," Caleb typed, but his thumb hovered over send. What could Ethan do? His own family was barely scraping by in a trailer park across town. The rain blurred Caleb's vision as he ducked into an alley, seeking shelter beneath a cafe awning. His stomach growled, but pride kept him from digging through the dumpster nearby. He wasn't that desperate, not yet. Instead, he leaned against the brick wall, replaying his mother's words, "You're no longer my son." The rejection stung deeper than the cold. He'd always known she was devout, but he'd hoped, foolishly, he now realized, that her love for him might outweigh her dogma. Headlights cut through the rain, and Caleb squinted as a police cruiser slowed beside the alley. His heart raced. Had someone reported him for loitering? He straightened, wiping his face, trying to look less like a drowned runaway. The driver's door opened, and a broad-shouldered man in a police uniform stepped out, his badge glinting under the streetlight. He was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of too many long nights. "You okay, kid?" the officer asked, his voice low but kind, cutting through the storm's roar. Caleb nodded, though his trembling hands betrayed him. "Just getting out of the rain." The officer tilted his head, unconvinced. "Name's Chief Daniel Hargrove. You got a place to stay tonight." Caleb's throat tightened. He could lie, but what was the point? "No, sir. I got kicked out." Hargrove's brow furrowed, but he didn't press. Instead, he gestured to the cruiser. "Come on. Let's get you dry. I've got coffee at the station." Caleb hesitated. Trusting a cop felt like a gamble, especially in a town where traditional values often meant judgment for people like him. But the rain was relentless, and Hargrove's steady gaze held no malice. With a shaky breath, Caleb followed, sliding into the passenger seat. The cruiser smelled of leather and stale coffee, and the warmth from the heater was a small mercy. At the police station, a squat brick building on the edge of downtown, Hargrove handed Caleb a towel and a mug of black coffee. The chief's office was cluttered but cozy, with photos of a younger Hargrove fishing with a boy who looked about Caleb's age. "My son, Nate," Hargrove said, catching Caleb's glance. "He's off at college now. Left me with an empty house and too much time on my hands." Caleb sipped the coffee, unsure how to respond. He wasn't used to adults being kind without wanting something in return. "Why are you helping me?" he asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Hargrove leaned back in his chair, his expression softening. "Because I've seen too many kids like you end up in bad places when no one steps in. You don't look like a troublemaker, Just someone who's had a rough night. Caleb's eyes stung, but he blinked back the tears. He told Hargrove the truth about Ethan, his mother's rejection, the letter that had unraveled his life. Hargrove listened without judgment, his silence a lifeline in Caleb's storm. When Caleb finished, the chief rubbed his jaw, thoughtful. "My wife, Clara, and we lost a nephew a few years back," Hargrove said. "He was like you, loved someone his family couldn't accept. He didn't make it through the fallout. I promised myself if I ever saw a kid in that same spot, I'd do something." Caleb's chest tightened. "I don't want your pity." "It's not pity," Hargrove said firmly. "It's a chance. I've got a spare room. You can crash there tonight, figure things out tomorrow. No strings." Caleb wanted to argue, to cling to his pride, but exhaustion won. He nodded, and Hargrove drove him to a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. The spare room was simple: a twin bed, a desk, a window overlooking a maple tree. Caleb collapsed onto the bed, still in his damp clothes, and for the first time that night, he felt a flicker of safety. But safety was fragile. As he drifted to sleep, Caleb couldn't shake the fear that this was temporary, that Hargrove's kindness would vanish once he knew the full truth of who Caleb was. In Asheville, acceptance was rare, and Caleb had learned the hard way that love, especially his kind of love, came at a cost. Morning light filtered through the maple tree outside Caleb's window, casting dappled shadows across the room. He woke with a start, disoriented, the events of last night crashing back like a wave. Chief Hargrove's house was quiet, save for the faint clink of dishes from the kitchen. Caleb's phone buzzed on the nightstand, Ethan, finally replying, "I'm so sorry, Caleb. Where are you?" "I'm worried." Caleb's fingers hovered over the screen. He wanted to tell Ethan everything, to pour out the pain and fear, but shame held him back. Instead, he typed, "I'm okay. Found a place to crash. Talk soon." He hit send, then dragged himself out of bed, his body aching from the cold and stress of the night before. In the kitchen, Hargrove stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a practiced hand. A woman with warm brown eyes and gray-streaked hair sat at the table, sipping coffee. "This is Clara," Hargrove said, nodding toward her. "My better half." Clara smiled, her gaze soft but searching. "You must be Caleb. Dan told me you had a rough night. You're welcome here as long as you need." Caleb mumbled a thank you, his guard still up. He wasn't used to kindness from strangers, especially not from people who looked like they belonged in a Norman Rockwell painting. Over breakfast, Hargrove and Clara kept the conversation light, talking about the weather, the local arts festival, anything but Caleb's situation. It was a relief, but it also made him feel like an intruder in their perfect world. After breakfast, Hargrove drove Caleb back to the station to file a report, just in case his mother tried to claim he'd run away or worse. The station buzzed with activity, officers typing reports, phones ringing, a radio crackling with dispatch calls. Caleb felt out of place, his worn jeans and faded hoodie a stark contrast to the crisp uniforms around him. While Hargrove handled paperwork, Caleb sat in the waiting area, scrolling through his phone. A news alert popped up. A local church was hosting a family values rally that weekend, led by none other than Pastor Reynolds, his mother's spiritual guide. Caleb's stomach churned. He could picture her there, clutching her Bible, preaching against the sin that had driven her to cast him out. Hargrove noticed Caleb's expression. Something wrong. Caleb showed him the article. "That's my mom's church. They're not big fans of people like me." Hargrove's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "I know the type. Seen too many folks use religion as a weapon. You don't deserve that." Caleb wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at his heart. He'd grown up hearing that his feelings were wrong, that loving Ethan was a choice he could unmake. Even now, in the safety of Hargrove's home, those words echoed. That afternoon, Caleb met Ethan at a small park near the college. Ethan's dark curls were messy, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "I should have been there," Ethan said, pulling Caleb into a hug. "I didn't know she'd react like that." "It's not your fault," Caleb said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. They sat on a bench, the autumn leaves swirling around them, and talked about everything: Ethan's dreams of becoming an artist, Caleb's fear of being alone, the letter that had changed everything. Ethan reached for Caleb's hand, and for a moment, the world felt right again. But the moment shattered when a group of college students passed by, one muttering a slur under his breath. Caleb yanked his hand away, his face burning. Ethan's expression darkened, but he didn't push. "We'll figure this out," Ethan said. "Together." Back at Hargrove's house, Caleb found himself opening up to Clara over dinner. She listened as he talked about Ethan, about the sketches they'd made together, about the fear of never being accepted. Clara's eyes glistened as she spoke about her nephew, Jamie, who'd taken his own life after his family rejected him. "You're not alone, Caleb," she said, "and you're not broken." Her words were a lifeline, but Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that he was a burden. That night, he overheard Hargrove and Clara talking in hushed tones. "He's a good kid," Hargrove said, "but this town, it's not always kind to people like him." "We'll protect him," Clara replied. "He's family now." Caleb's throat tightened. Family. The word felt foreign, fragile, like something that could be snatched away. He didn't know if he could trust it or if he deserved it. The days blurred into a fragile routine. Caleb helped Clara in the garden, sketching flowers while she taught him the names of plants: marigolds, zinnias, lavender. Hargrove took him to the station sometimes, letting him sit in on community outreach meetings, where Caleb saw a different side of Asheville. People trying to build bridges, not walls. But the town wasn't all kindness. Graffiti on a downtown mural read, "Keep Asheville holy," a reminder of the judgment lurking just beneath the surface. Ethan was Caleb's anchor, but their meetings were stolen moments. Quick coffees at a diner, walks along the French Broad River, always glancing over their shoulders. Caleb wanted to be brave, to hold Ethan's hand in public, but fear kept him cautious. Ethan, ever patient, never pushed, but Caleb saw the hurt in his eyes when they had to pretend they were just friends. One evening, Hargrove came home with a flyer for the church rally. "It's tomorrow," he said, his voice heavy. "Your mom's group is organizing it. Thought you should know." Caleb's stomach dropped. He could picture his mother, Ellen, standing at the podium, her voice ringing with righteous fury. He wanted to ignore it, to stay hidden in Hargrove's safe haven, but something in him stirred, a need to face her, to understand why she'd chosen hate over love. "I want to go," Caleb said, surprising himself. Hargrove raised an eyebrow but nodded. The rally was held in a park near the church, a sea of signs proclaiming "Family First" and "God's Design." Caleb stood at the edge of the crowd, his hoodie pulled low, Hargrove at his side. Ellen took the stage, her face stern, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "We must protect our children from corruption," she said, her words sharp as knives. "From those who choose sin over salvation." Caleb's chest ached. He wanted to scream, to tell her she was wrong, but his voice caught in his throat. Hargrove's hand rested on his shoulder, steadying him. "You don't have to do this," the chief whispered. But Caleb did. He stepped forward, his heart pounding, and called out, "Mom!" The crowd turned. Ellen's eyes widened, then narrowed. "Caleb," she said, her voice cold. "You're not welcome here." The word stung, but Caleb stood his ground. "I'm your son. Why can't you love me?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some looked away, others whispered. Ellen's face flushed, but she didn't answer. Pastor Reynolds stepped in, his voice booming. "This is a place for God's truth, not defiance." Hargrove moved beside Caleb, his presence commanding. "This is a public park," he said, "and this young man has a right to speak. You don't get to silence him." The crowd grew tense, but Hargrove's authority held them at bay. Caleb's voice shook as he spoke again. "I didn't choose this, Mom. I just want to be me. Why isn't that enough?" Ellen's lips trembled, but she turned away, retreating behind the pastor. The rejection was a fresh wound, but Caleb felt a strange relief. He'd faced her. He'd spoken his truth. Back at Hargrove's house, Clara wrapped Caleb in a hug. "I'm proud of you," she said. "That took courage." Caleb wasn't sure it was courage. Felt more like desperation, a need to be seen. But as he sat with Clara and Hargrove that night, sharing a quiet dinner, he realized something had shifted. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He was starting to belong. The rally lingered in Caleb's mind like a bruise, tender and impossible to ignore. He threw himself into sketching, filling pages with images of Ethan's smile, the river's flow, the mountains that framed Asheville. Art was his refuge, a way to process the pain. Hargrove noticed and surprised Caleb with a set of professional pencils and a sketchbook. "Keep creating," he said. "It's how you'll find your way." Caleb's days took on a new rhythm. He enrolled in online art classes, funded by a scholarship Hargrove helped him apply for. Ethan joined him sometimes, the two of them sketching in Hargrove's backyard, their laughter a quiet rebellion against the world's judgment. But the town wasn't done with Caleb. Rumors spread about the troubled kid living with the police chief, about the rally confrontation. Caleb overheard whispers at the grocery store, saw pointed looks at the diner. Asheville was progressive in pockets, but intolerance still thrived in its shadows. One night, Ethan showed up at Hargrove's house, his face pale. "Someone spray-painted my car," he said. "Called me, you know." He didn't need to say the word. Caleb's stomach twisted. He'd brought this into Ethan's life, this hate. Hargrove took a report, his jaw tight. "We'll find who did it," he promised. But Caleb saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of a town divided. Hargrove was respected, but taking in a kid like Caleb had made him a target too. Anonymous letters arrived at the station, accusing him of promoting sin. Clara burned them in the fireplace, her face set. "Let them talk," she said. "We know who we are." Caleb wasn't so sure. Guilt gnawed at him. He was disrupting their lives, bringing trouble to their doorstep. He considered leaving, finding a shelter, disappearing before he caused more harm. But when he mentioned it to Ethan, his boyfriend grabbed his hand. Fierce. "Don't you dare," Ethan said. "You're worth fighting for." The words stuck with Caleb, but so did the fear. One evening, while Hargrove was at the station, Caleb found Clara in the living room, looking at old photos. She showed him one of Jamie, her nephew, laughing at a family picnic. "He was so bright," she said. "Like you. I wish we'd fought harder for him." Caleb's throat tightened. "I don't want to mess up your life." Clara took his hand. "You're not messing up anything. You're giving us a chance to do right." Her words were a bomb, but the tension in Asheville was growing. The church group planned another rally, this one bigger, with flyers plastered across town. Caleb's mother was listed as a speaker again. He didn't want to go, but Ethan insisted. "We need to show them we're not afraid," he said. Caleb wasn't sure he could be that brave, but Ethan's fire was contagious. The rally was chaos. Hundreds of people, signs waving, voices shouting. Caleb and Ethan stood together, holding hands this time, their defiance a quiet strength. Hargrove was there too, in uniform, keeping the peace. When Ellen saw Caleb, her face hardened, but she didn't approach. Instead, a group of young men from the church did, their eyes glinting with malice. "Fags don't belong here," one spat, stepping too close. Caleb froze, but Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "We're not going anywhere." The situation escalated fast. A shove, a shout, and suddenly Hargrove was there, his presence a wall between Caleb and the threat. "Back off," he growled, his authority cutting through the noise. The crowd dispersed, but Caleb's heart raced. He'd never felt so exposed or so protected. That night, Hargrove sat Caleb down. "I'm proud of you," he said, "but this town's getting uglier. We need to be smart, stick together." Caleb nodded, but inside he was torn. He wanted to stay, to fight, but the weight of his mother's rejection and the town's hate pressed down on him. Could he really build a life here with Ethan, with Hargrove and Clara? Or was he fooling himself, chasing a dream that would always be out of reach? Winter settled over Asheville, the mountains dusted with snow, the air sharp with cold. Caleb's life with Hargrove and Clara became a fragile haven, but the outside world kept testing its walls. The vandalism on Ethan's car wasn't a one-off. Slurs appeared on Caleb's locker at the community college, and anonymous calls to the station accused Hargrove of harboring a deviant. Caleb felt like a lightning rod, drawing trouble wherever he went. He threw himself into his art, sketching late into the night, his drawings growing darker. Storm clouds, broken trees, faces half hidden in shadow. Ethan noticed, urging Caleb to talk, but words felt inadequate. "I'm scared I'm ruining everything," Caleb admitted one night, sitting on Ethan's couch in his cramped apartment. "Hargrove, Clara, they're all getting hurt because of me." Ethan cupped Caleb's face, his eyes fierce. "You're not ruining anything. They chose you just like I did. We're in this together." Caleb wanted to believe him, but doubt was a persistent shadow. At the station, Hargrove was under pressure. A city council member, backed by the church group, questioned his judgment, hinting at budget cuts if he didn't align with community values. Hargrove brushed it off, but Caleb saw the strain in his eyes. One snowy afternoon, Caleb found a letter in the mailbox, addressed to him in his mother's handwriting. His hands shook as he opened it. "I pray for you every day," it read. "Come back to God, and you can come home." No apology, no warmth, just a demand to change who he was. Caleb tore the letter to pieces, his anger a white-hot flame. Clara found him in the backyard, staring at the scraps in the snow. "She'll never see me," Caleb said, his voice breaking. "Not really." Clara hugged him, her coat damp with snow. "Then let us see you. Let us be your family." Her words cracked something open in Caleb. That night, he showed Hargrove and Clara his sketchbook, pages filled with raw emotion. Ethan's hands, the river, the rally. Hargrove's eyes softened. "You've got a gift, kid. Don't let anyone take that from you." Inspired, Caleb and Ethan decided to fight back in their own way. They organized an art exhibit at the college, showcasing work by queer artists in the community. Caleb poured his heart into a piece, a vibrant painting of two hands clasped against a backdrop of mountains, with the words, "Love is family," woven into the brushstrokes. The exhibit drew a crowd, including allies who clapped and cheered, but also hecklers who lingered at the edges, their glares sharp. The night of the exhibit, Hargrove and Clara stood front and center, their pride a shield against the hate. Ethan's paintings, bright and bold, hung beside Caleb's, a testament to their shared strength. But as the crowd thinned, a group of protesters gathered outside, chanting slurs. Caleb's heart sank, but Hargrove stepped out, his badge glinting. "This is a peaceful event," he said, his voice calm but unyielding. "Move along." The protesters dispersed, but the tension lingered. Caleb felt the weight of every eye on him, every whisper. He wanted to run, to hide, but Ethan's hand in his kept him grounded. "We're stronger than them," Ethan whispered. Back home, Hargrove sat Caleb down. "I've been talking to Clara," he said. "We want you to stay. Not just tonight, not just tomorrow. Permanently, as our son." Caleb's breath caught. He dreamed of belonging, but hearing it out loud felt surreal. "Why me?" he asked, his voice small. "Because you're worth it," Hargrove said. "Because we see you, and we love you." Tears spilled down Caleb's cheeks. He nodded, unable to speak. For the first time, he felt the possibility of a future. Not just survival, but a life where he could be himself. Spring came to Asheville, the mountains blooming with color, the air soft with promise. Caleb's life with Hargrove and Clara settled into something solid, a foundation he hadn't dared hope for. He was officially their foster son now, the paperwork signed, their home his home. Ethan was a constant, their love growing stronger with every shared moment. Late-night sketches, quiet walks, stolen kisses under the stars. But the town hadn't changed overnight. The church group's influence lingered, their rallies quieter but still present. Caleb's mother sent another letter, this one softer, asking to meet. He agreed against his better judgment, hoping for a flicker of understanding. They met at a cafe, the air thick with tension. Ellen's eyes were tired, her voice hesitant. "I want you to come home," she said. "But you have to choose the right path." Caleb's heart sank. "The right path is me being who I am," he said. "I'm happy, Mom. I have a family now. I have Ethan. Why can't you see that?" Ellen looked away, her silence louder than words. Caleb left the cafe, his chest heavy but his resolve firm. He didn't need her approval anymore. He had Hargrove, Clara, Ethan, people who saw him, who loved him without conditions. The art exhibit became a turning point. Caleb and Ethan's work gained attention, and a local gallery offered them a joint show. Caleb's painting, "Love is Family," became a symbol for the community, shared on social media, printed on posters. Hargrove and Clara hung a copy in their living room, their pride a quiet force. One evening, as Caleb and Ethan sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, Hargrove joined them. He handed Caleb a key. "This is yours," he said. "This house, this family. It's yours, no matter what." Caleb's eyes stung. He looked at Ethan, at Hargrove, at the life he'd built from the ashes of rejection. "Thank you," he whispered, the words carrying the weight of everything he'd lost and found. The town wasn't perfect. Hate still simmered, and Caleb knew the fight wasn't over. But he wasn't alone anymore. He had a family, a love, a future. And in that moment, under the Asheville sky, he knew he was enough.